Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Hitch and Yeti here once again. Thank you for joining me today. I'm here at the Third Creek Presbyterian Church located in Rowan County, North Carolina. And we're here today because supposedly Napoleon's right-hand man, General Marshal Michael Ney, is buried here in the United States. How is that possible? Well, let's go over here and see what we can learn about this little story. I'm inviting you to join me. So let's go do this. Alright friends, I thought I would come over here to the Third Creek Memory Garden area. They got a nice little gazebo sitting out here. And we could possibly have a seat and talk about this man a little bit before we go look for his gravesite. Alright friends, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who Marshal Michael Ney, who he really was. So he was born in 1769, if you didn't know. And he enlisted in the French army in 1787. He rose rapidly through the ranks of the army and really caught the eye of France's newest emperor, Napoleon. Napoleon would continuously praise Ney for his bravery and his intelligence and gave him the title of Marshal in 1804. When Napoleon was defeated, Ney was arrested for treason and then he was killed. He was actually executed by a firing squad. How brutal is that, right? On December 6th, 1815. So supposedly, that's what history says happened. But over here across the pond here in good old North Carolina, we have a whole new story of what really happened. And I'm going to tell it to you. So come on, let's go over here and walk and see if we can find his grave. And let's talk about it, shall we? Let's go do this. So what we know so far is Marshal Michael Ney was executed December 6th, 1815. So over here in North Carolina, across the pond, the big Atlantic Ocean, probably 5-6 years later in the early 1820s, this Frenchman shows up here in North Carolina going by the name of Peter Stewart Ney. Okay, you see where I'm going with this now, right? And he would move and kind of live in each town, moving town to town. He was getting work as a school teacher. He could teach French and Latin languages. He was an excellent French-speaking man, excellent. And he finally called Cleveland, North Carolina his home. This is where he really settled here in this area. So once he settled here in Cleveland, North Carolina, they said he was he loved reading the newspaper. And he would always read the news coming out of France. What was going on in France? That was a big thing. And so sometimes Peter Ney would drink a little too much and he would talk about his former life in the French army and almost let it slip of who he really was. So I think that was pretty interesting right there in its own right. So speaking of Peter Stewart Ney, this right here is the actual schoolhouse that he taught in way back in the 1800s. We got this little placard up here. It says Third Creek Presbyterian Church Session House. Built before 1935, rebuilt in 1949 by the Ney Memorial Association, renovated in 2018, dedicated in 2019 to the glory of God. So just think, he walked right up into that door. I'm sure it wasn't those actual steps. Those steps probably been remade since then, but this is the house. This is the schoolhouse where this man actually taught. That is just too cool. So now we've seen the schoolhouse where Peter Stewart Ney taught. Now let's go see if we can find his gravesite. And there's his gravesite is very famous around here. I think it's been dug up numerous times, and and here most recently, I think on July 5th of this year of 2022, about a month ago from the time of this recording, there was a French TV crew that come over here, and they was doing a story about it also. They dug his grave up again and tried to get some DNA from his remains. And so we're going to make our way over to his grave site now and take a look at it. And I think we can find it. I'm pretty sure we can find it. Let's see if we can find it. It might stand out a little bit from all the other graves here. So we're looking at the schoolhouse, and when we do a nice little pan around here at the graves, you think you find it yet? Can you see it? Can you see it? That's it right there. That big brick grave site here. It's almost like a mausoleum. And it looks like the blue tarps are still here from where they dug his grave up almost a month ago. How crazy is that? Look at that. And that right there, my friends, would be a haven for something called mosquitoes here in the south. That standing water. But that's not why we're here, is it? Look, they still have some of the rock, the dirt, North Carolina clay. And then when we pan over here, right here it says, in memory of Peter Stewart Ney, a native of France and soldier of the French Revolution under Napoleon, who departed this life November 15th, 1846 at 77 years of age. And that's like they got like a glass case on there where you can't even really get up close to his headstone. Let me go around to the other side and see if we can get a little better shot of it. So they have like a chain link fence in there. A lot of rock to cover up his grave. A little small footstone down there. And then right here is Peter Stewart Ney's headstone. It's got Napoleon. It's got pretty much the same exact writing that we just read on that placard. I know it's hard because it's a white headstone and there's a lot of glare off of this, but this is his grave site, freshly dug up and recovered. Golly, I would love to know what they find out about it, and I'm sure we will, because it was actually a TV crew that did this, so it'll be on some TV show coming up in the future. Definitely have to check that out. So as Peter Stewart Ney lived here in North Carolina as a school teacher for many years, he always pretty much kept to himself. And but there was one episode where there was a French fencing instructor nearby Moxville, North Carolina, and Peter Ney actually challenged him to a friendly duel, and he beat the much younger fencing instructor with little effort, very easily. So I thought that was kind of neat. I know many years later, when news of Napoleon's death reached Peter Ney, and if you didn't know, Napoleon's death was May 5th, 1821, just to give you an idea of the time period, likely due to stomach cancer. There's all kinds of things of why Napoleon died. Some people says poisoning, but stomach cancer is what Wikipedia says, so that's what I'm going to go with, I guess. So when Ney learned of Napoleon's death, sources say he dropped to the floor in a cold faint. And when he recovered, he unsuccessfully tried to end his own life. And I just think that just shows you if this is all true, and this is really Michael Marshal Ney, it just shows you the connection he had with Napoleon and the friendship that they had and how much they thought of one another. Many veterans of the French wars had settled here in America after Napoleon's defeat. And those passing through the small town, they noted there was very much a striking resemblance between the tall red-headed schoolmaster and the late Marshal Michael Ney of France. So we know a little bit about Marshal Michael Ney, his history, where he came from, how he died, and then now we've learned a little bit about Peter Stewart Ney and what he did while he was here in America, and kind of sort of when he would drink a little bit, he might kind of let it slip that he was in the French army. So that being said, are these two people one of the same? Maybe. It could be, and I'm going to tell you why right now. So I had to walk back this way a little bit because, of course, I'm out here filming, and here comes a lawn crew wanting to mow the yard. That's the life of a YouTuber. But all right, so Marshal Michael Ney. I guess the big question is, how do you fake your own death when it's a firing squad? Well, here we go. Marshal Michael Ney was a Freemason. And you know what else? Many overseers of his trial and execution were also Freemasons. So I know what you're thinking, what's the big deal with Freemasons? Well, if you've ever seen the Disney movie National Treasure, they speak a lot in that movie about Freemasons and how brilliant they were and how smart they were, and what it was almost like a secret society, you know, underground, if you will, of some of the most brilliant, smartest men in the world were Freemasons. And they worked together very closely, and they would definitely probably not do any harm to each other or turn their back on one another ever. So that's kind of makes me lean maybe he was able to fake his death, because I have a friend of mine who actually told me about this whole story, and he actually had read that when they executed him, his body was presented to the king or whatever, and it was just in a bloody sheet. You know, they never actually showed a face. You never seen him. He just faked his death. He just played dead, had a little bit of blood on him. That was it. So Marshal Michael Ney, we can say now, since he was a Freemason, some of his executioners and people over his trial was all Freemasons, there's a window of opportunity there to say, yeah, maybe he could fake his death. So he moves to America. 5 years later, he shows up over here, and then he changes his name to Peter Stewart Ney. Now, why would he pick the name Peter? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because Michael Ney's father name was Pierre Ney. Guess what that translates to in English? Peter. So he used his father's first name and just translated it to English and called himself Peter Ney. So the next thing is Stewart. Why would he use the middle name Stewart? Well, let me tell you. So the name Stewart recalls another famous exile in European history. England's Charles II of Stuart line. He spent years in exile in France to return to the throne in 1660 when the monarchy was restored. The connection may have appealed to Ney's sense of irony, and maybe that's the reason he used Stewart as his middle name. So the last little bit of information I have about Peter Stewart Ney is what his last words were. So when he was on his deathbed, his last words were, "I will not die with a lie on my lips. I am Marshal Ney of France." Peter Stewart Ney died here in North Carolina, November 15th, 1846, at the age of 77 years old. And that was his last dying words. So he finally admitted after all that time, and he was sober, but he was dying, but he said he is Marshal Ney of France. All right, we finally wrapped up this video I've been wanting to shoot, but it was hard. This was such a tough video to shoot today. I thought I was gonna come out here on a Saturday morning. It was gonna be quiet. There ain't gonna be nobody here at this church this morning. The lawn crew showed up. Look at all these people. I don't know what these people are doing on a Saturday. It ain't even Sunday. These people are all up in this church, man. I don't know what's going on, but that was hilarious. I was having to like pick my moments to film every little segment of this video. The life of a YouTuber. It is never boring. Well, that will pretty much conclude today's video, friends. If you're new to the channel, please think about subscribing. If you like today's content, give it a thumbs up. And please put in the comment section down below and give me your thoughts. Do you think Marshal Michael Ney and Peter Stewart Ney are one of the same? I tried to give you as much information as I could on this story. I thought it was very interesting. Did Michael Marshal Ney move to America in exile and change his name to Peter Stewart Ney and lived as a school teacher? I think that was pretty fascinating. Till next time, I'm the Hitchhiking Yeti, and I will see you friends in the next video. Y'all stay safe.